Hi everyone, and welcome to week 4. We are now in the middle of the course. I just wanted to say a word first. I intentionally didn't get dressed up today. I went for a run this morning, and I teach 3 different courses, and I'm making all the videos today. And I thought I'd talk to each course, the students in each course, from a different perspective. So this is interpersonal processes, but I teach a course about assessment and diagnosis of mental health conditions and also treating trauma. And if we're talking about mental well-being, exercise is something that's important. If we're talking about treating trauma, again, exercise is also important. And here we are in interpersonal processes. So I came dressed in my running clothes. I went for a run this morning. It's a little rainy out. It was a perfect day for a run. And it made me think about how important it is that we interact with other people. And yet at the moment, it's kind of hard to be around other people. So if I went out to run, my run and my comfort in running has a lot to do with whether or not I have to serpentine up and down the street in certain places to make sure that I don't actually run by people. I feel like it's my responsibility to keep my breath by myself and not spread anything I might have on somebody else, which I don't think I have anything, but you never know. And certainly I don't want to be exposed by somebody else who might be running by me. More importantly, though, we do want to take care of ourselves at this time. And that might mean just sitting out on the porch or doing some yoga, taking a walk as far as you feel comfortable. That might be like down your driveway and back, or down the street and back, or maybe it's a couple of miles. Maybe you need to build up to things. I know when I first started running, I couldn't run more than a half of a block. And then I was completely out of breath. And then I'd have to walk a couple of blocks before I could run again another half a block. But I did that. I ran off and on over the years. And after I turned 61, I ran a half marathon. I've run Broad Street twice. I've run the half marathon twice. And so I like running. But there are other things that people can do to move and stretch your body so that we are in the best possible, not just physical shape to be healthy, but also mental shape to be able to do our work. And some days when you feel overwhelmed because you have a work life and a home life and a school life that all have competing forces, sometimes stepping away and giving yourself 10 minutes, 30 minutes, even an hour to be away from what you're doing can make you more efficient when you come back. You might say, oh, I have too much work to do. I can't go, I can't walk, I can't do this. I assure you that when you come back from taking a walk, that you'll look at what you have to do and you'll go, oh, okay, I can do this. Because you won't be mentally dragging, okay? I wanted to start today by going through major projects and assignments, discussions, process notes. There's multiple videos here. Some of them focus on the whole week of the process note. Some of them focus on particular elements, and they're no more than a minute to a minute and a half long. You're done, check. Emotional intelligence paper, check. Next steps paper, that comes in week 6. That builds on your emotional intelligence paper you're going to talk about. So now that you're thinking about who you are and how you are in each one of those domains, what are you going to do about it? What are some things you have an idea? And so here I am, I have to say, that I certainly have learned that I still have a lot to learn. And when you go writing about what you're going to learn, you might say, no, I think I got it under control. Yeah, in this moment, you have it under control. That's very good. I'm very proud of you, and that's very helpful. However, there's still more to learn. And we need to be thinking about that if we want to be the best possible social worker, to evolve and change and just continue to find out more about the world and about ourselves. So being open and honest and, talking about here's what I could do differently is very important. Finally, here is a video that I made for you about the group presentation. And then here is the description of the group presentation, which also has a grading rubric in it. So if you're looking for that, it's there. Okay, as you're working with your group. I can't emphasize enough, though, as you're working with your group, that you want to pay attention to your process. You want to get to know each other. You want to talk about what are your group agreements? What are you going to do when chaos comes? And I hope chaos comes, because if you can lean in to the chaos, you're going to learn some really important things about groups. Okay? And here we are in week 4, so chaos is perhaps something that might happen. You might say, no, we're all still getting along. We get along really well. Great. Maybe you feel like you're in community. That's why one is community and one is pseudo-community. Community is where you've worked through chaos, talked about working through chaos, that's emptying, and then you move on and you go, you know what, if chaos comes, bring it on. I'm going to be fine. We know what to do if chaos comes. Chaos can come in different forms. People are worried maybe there's going to be an argument. That could happen. There could be a disagreement. There could be conflict of some kind. There could be resistance, where people don't talk, or they don't contribute, or they don't want to. They say, no, I'm not talking. Now, people that are quiet are not necessarily resisting. They just might be taking in information, waiting for their turn to contribute. Okay? So here is what we have for this week. You see a number of things. The video for this week will be here. That's the introduction, just the overview of what we're focusing on. Oh, sorry. We're talking about ourselves. Again, having more like self-reflection. Lots of self-reflection in this course. That this is, again, something good to lean into. Okay? And communication. So this week you're going to be focusing on using talking paper. Last week you focused on nonviolent communication, and next week is finding common ground. These are all conflict resolution approaches. So when you're planning your small group presentation, you can draw from these. Especially encourage you to watch the video, though, because if you're going to use nonviolent communication, there are certain steps that you need to take instead of just doing it. Okay? If you go in, you watch the video, and it still doesn't make sense what I'm saying, then ask me, okay? So here in talking paper, let's go through this. You have 2 discussions this week. Your small group is going to upload, and then there's a dyad conversation, and the dyad conversation is something that you're doing on your own. Uh-oh. I need to eat something. I always start yawning when I need to eat. And then a mid-semester evaluation. This will be reported in your week 5 process note. So I can't encourage you enough when you're thinking about process notes to begin to record, like go to week 5 and look at what you need to focus on. And there are going to be things in week 4 that you have to work on. So start working on them in week 4. Okay? It makes life much easier in week 5 when you have to get it all done. All right, so here we have some articles. Hang on just a second, I'm going to get water. I'll be right back. Okay, there we go. I'm having a little bit of trouble today with the internet. It happened yesterday too. So sorry if anything seems kind of blurry. I'm back. I use intermittent fasting. So I go from about 8 o'clock at night until almost noontime before I break my fast. And I usually break my fast with my kombucha, so I went and got kombucha. There we go. Okay, so reading this week, you're going to be reading a Goleman article. Morrison talked about Goleman in the Morrison article. You're going to read a chapter by John Poulin, who was on faculty at Widener for a while. And early in the course, you read Dr. Burrell's chapter in Dr. Poulin's book. So now you're going to read Dr. Poulin. Siegel and Hartzell talk about making connections, and then Edgar Tolle, these chapters. So everything's right here. You just have to click on it, and then it will come up. So here's Dan Siegel. Here's Dan Siegel too, right here. Dan Siegel is really a great guy. He talks about attachment, and attachment is something that is ever so important when we are working with people. Do we attach with other people? How do we do that? Well, we might talk to them. We might feel attached to them. But there is also something happening between our brain and the person's brain. And so we have some brain-to-brain connection. And so you'll want to definitely watch this and read the other material, because one of the discussions focuses on this kind of abstract concept of how our brains might be connected. This is just a reminder for your meetings. Okay, so now we have talking paper training. I use talking paper. I love talking paper. It is one of the best ways to help people talk about an issue. So there's now I'm blanking. I can see the book and I can't remember his name. He was a business writer. Oh, Stephen Covey. There we go. Oh, isn't that great? It came right back. Stephen Covey wrote a book, and he talked a lot about how important it is to be hard on a problem, but not on people. And in conflict, people start going, you. And in conflict, the word you is really a curse word, because you is an activating word. And people will say, well, why are you attacking me? And we want to be hard on the problem and not on the person. Okay? Talking paper allows us to do that. And when I post for you, I'm going to add a series of questions that I use when I use talking paper and work with a group through team building. Okay? So you'll want, this is Dr. Burrell. If you ever get a chance to take a course with Dr. Burrell, you definitely want to do that. She's amazing. There's also a transcript, but it's better to watch the video. Okay, here we go. Attunement, brain-to-brain communication, implications for attachment. So a lot of what we do when we're in a group and we're maybe the leader, we're making observations in the group, we notice things, and we don't know how we're picking things up. We call it intuition, and some of that might be intuition, but some of it is us watching people, watching body language. Some of it's based on previous experience, and our brain is informed by those previous experiences. And some of it is this idea of attuning to another person and connecting with them. Okay? So you're going to use citations and references to the course readings for this post. Based on the material that you read, tell us, how the ideas of attunement, brain-to-brain communication, and their implications for attachment change the role of the social worker, or maybe influence the role of the social worker and the small group leader. So why would these things be important to social workers, and why would they be important to small group leaders? Okay, you'll follow up with one classmate, discuss, well, maybe you agree or disagree about the experiences or the reading. That's fine. Again, you're not telling the person you're wrong, you're a bad person. You're saying, this is the idea that I had. When you introduce this idea, I'm not sure I agree with that. You're not saying, I don't agree with you. You say, I'm not sure I'm agreeing with that idea. Okay? Next up. So, the idea of watching the talking paper video is to teach you how to use talking papers. And so you are going to need to find a group of people. Now, this is not going to be so easy in our COVID environment, so you might just have to use Zoom to connect with people and try using the talking paper approach. Do the best you can. If you have different ideas, let me know. Perhaps you're going to work and you're being able to distance yourself with other people. You'd be able to sit in a room with a few people. Great. Maybe you're having interactions with family members, or you have family members. You're living with family members. You could use your family. But if you cannot, then Zoom, or you could use maybe some of your classmates and say, hey, could you do this with me? It's a little harder though on Zoom, because it's not any longer anonymous. But we'll just have to adapt, because normally you could do this in a group, okay? You're going to submit. You're going to pick a topic, any topic. What do you love about an animal? What makes you happy about the weather? What should our next vacation be? Okay? Pick a topic, any topic. And then you are going to practice using talking papers. You're going to ask questions, and you're going to then, put your Post-it notes. People write down their Post-it notes if you're in person, and then you'll put them up on a piece of paper. And then for the post, you're going to talk about what topic did you cover? What were your findings? Any issues you had with working through the exercise, and any questions you have about conducting this activity. So it must be a group activity, number one. Number two, you, the facilitator, are not a participant. You are not contributing in this activity. It takes away from the empowerment of the other people who are in the group. And you are going to do your best not to know who said what, because that doesn't matter. So you might have to be creative about that if you have to do it on Zoom, okay? All right. If you can upload a photo of the papers, that would be great. So you want to follow each of the steps in the video, and then you're going to follow up with one classmate, talk about what are the strengths and how they conducted talking papers, and maybe any suggestions for doing things differently to enhance their use. Somebody from your group is going to fill out the form, post it here. I will give you feedback, answer questions, whatever you need here. Okay. Remember that you are paying attention to the process and not so much to the product. You can have conversations about your project, but if that's all you ever do, then your group, maybe it's chaos, your group is avoiding paying attention to the process of the group. So, activities that are process-oriented are building those team agreements, talking about what stage you think your group is in and why, discussing, bringing up anything that you don't agree about, and, having a conversation about that. Practicing, like you practiced nonviolent communication. Maybe you might practice talking paper in your group. This is one of the potential conflict resolution techniques or tools or interventions that you're going to be using. All right? Next, you are going to meet with your dyad partner, same person you've been meeting with, and you're going to talk about two groups from the past. One group that went well, one group that did not. When you write about this in the process note, you're going to, in the content part, write about, I talked about this group and this group, and that person talked about this group and this group. This group that went well, this group that didn't go well, be a little more detailed than that. You are specifically talking about what stage was each group in, how did you know, and what role did the leader play. So when you talk about your content, you're going to say, we talked about what stage each group was in, the stages were. How did you know? This is how we knew. What was the role of the leader? What did the role of the leader play? This is what the role was for each one of you. That's content. The process is how you talked to each other, how you interacted with your partner, with your dyad partner. Did you listen to the person? Were you distracted? How did it make you feel when you listened to their discussion of their group? That's the process. That's the effect that the dyad had on you, okay? Then when you meet with your small group this week or next, whenever you get through this, in one of the 2 weeks, you're meeting every week. I don't want to be unclear. You're meeting every week. Discuss what you learned from this dyad exercise and how it might add to the small groups project, okay? So it appears both in your process note here, and it will be part of your discussion, so it should be on the summary form in one of these weeks, either week 4 or week 5, and then in your process note, okay? And then here is a mid-semester evaluation. I find it always helpful to hear from you. Those people that put together the course also like to know what you have to say. And if there's anything about my teaching style that you wish I would do more or less of, you have an anonymous way to give feedback to me. I'm happy if you give feedback to me directly too, that's fine. But there's an anonymous way that you can do that. Okay, so there you go. Welcome to week 4. I'll see you in the course.